boy, this is getting a little bit easier each time. Slowly but surely, we're getting this each time. Okay, hi everybody, Daphne here. Welcome back to my channel. So, a little housekeeping before we get started. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. And also, for this stream, we're using the royal we. It's like I'm using StreamLabs OBS. So if you subscribe during the stream, a little zombie will pop up and tell me that you subscribe to the channel. So feel free to test that whenever you feel like it, because I really would like to see if my settings are correct on StreamLabs. So let's see if this works a little bit better than just regular OBS. And of course, as always, don't forget to download the first three issues of Tall Tales that are waiting for you at the link in the description box below. Because I'm trying something new with StreamLabs OBS, I would put a link in the chat, but my keyboard is being a fake soundboard right now, so I can't really type anything right now, so we're not going to worry about that. So, welcome to my new live stream, and today we're going to color in the covers for the 2 Kickstarter sketch covers that I started in last week's live stream. So, if you didn't know, which you would have if you were signed up to our mailing list, we had a Kickstarter about a month ago for Tall Tales Tears of the Mother issue 5. And we're just finishing up getting everything out. I mailed out the first couple of batches of books yesterday. And I'm finishing up the sketch covers so that those can go out as well in a timely manner. So, without further ado, let's get started. There we go. Oh, you like that? You like that? Okay. All right. So, these are the 2 sketch covers that I'm going to color today. And I'm going to be doing something different just so I can show you what different markers can do with pretty much the same type of piece. So in this case, I'm going to be coloring one with Copic markers, and I'm going to be coloring another one with Prismacolor markers. So in the last live stream, or pretty much whenever Copics come up, I'm always complaining about how Copics are expensive and overrated, and I can actually work just as well with just Prismacolor markers. But I think in the end it'd be best just to show you what I mean by that. So first, I'm going to show you my color chart for my Prismacolors. So this is all the Prismacolors that I have in the order that they appear on a rack that I have next to me here. And the thing about Prismacolors, the thing about any markers especially, is that they are not archival. These are not archival pigments, which means that UV light, sunlight, will fade them. So I made this chart, and I have to keep it in a place where it gets no sunlight whatsoever to keep the colors about as accurate as I can. I used to have one for the Copics that I'm about to use, but that chart, I have to make a new one because that chart completely faded because I didn't protect that one as well as I protected this one. But that's I don't have that many Copics anyway, so I'm not too concerned about having a chart for that. Luckily, the Copics that I bought pretty much came already color-coded, so I don't really need to think that much about which colors I have and how they go together. And also, just so you know, I also have another set of Copics that's just the black and whites. Well, black, it's just different types of gray that I also tend to use. So, oh, and of course, as always, if you're using headphones, protect your ears, because this guy is in the background and I have no control over the noises that he makes. And unfortunately, his favorite sounds are sirens and alarms and any obnoxious noise that might blow out your eardrums if you're not careful. So just warning you in advance, because like I said, I have no control over him. But at least this time, I'm not worried about him escaping the cage, because I had to fix his cage so that he wouldn't do that again. So, okay, so let's get started here. So, okay, so this is, I'm going to put my chart where I can see it, of course. And we're going to start with this one. So with this sketch cover, I'm going to use Prismacolors on these so that we can start off with that. So even though it's a nice cardstock, I still have to put my little card, it's not cardboard, it's just index paper, because depending on how new the marker is, it does bleed through the cover. So with Prismacolors, what I usually do is I use kind of like a flat coloring technique, kind of like, you know, animation cell style coloring, because I don't have the brush nibs. I just have the chisel nib and, like, I guess like the regular nib. Actually, let's just pick a color, and you know, so there's the chisel nib, and then here's the regular nib. So it doesn't blend like a brush because of that. So knowing its limitation, I'm not going to try to color this, to use these markers the same way that I would use Copics, which I will show you in the next demo. So luckily this is a color that, well, one of the colors. I think I'm going to choose like a paler yellow to start off. Okay, I'm going to choose this one. Yeah, it's okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the thicker nib, and I'm going to lay down my flat colors, because like I said, I'm not doing blending with these markers at this point. There is going to be a blending part for the background, but we're going to save that for last. So I'm going to go ahead and start coloring in and putting in the flat base color. Now, the thing is that when I inked in this, well, this cover last week, although this cover I didn't ink in on camera, I was saying how I had to let everything sit because I had to let the inks really, really dry before I attempted to color on top of them. So in the end, it worked out that I'd get to these covers a week later. And because sometimes the ink does have a tendency to bleed, what I'm also trying to do is not coloring directly on top of the on top of my ink lines, because especially with light colors, I don't want anything to smear, because this being an original piece of artwork, I can't really redo them. Let's see, I think I'm going to go with 14. I'm going to go with a red. Yeah, so this time around I decided to skip having music in the background. I know it might be a little weird. But I found the music really distracting. And one of the things I decided to really keep an eye on this live stream is keeping those distractions to a minimum, or else it's like I'm just the type of person where like I sensory overload really quick, really easily. So it's like I can't have like people talking and then have a TV in the background and then have music playing. It's like look, it's either one or the other. Now also a thing when I color with when I color these sketch covers with markers, the one thing I also try to do too is try to limit the amount of colors that I use, because you know I want the sketch covers to look nice, but at the same time I don't want them to be an endeavor that takes all day to do. So I mean there was one time I had to do 27 of these. I think that was the most at one time I had to do. So it's like, yeah, you don't want to get too complicated with your style, or else it's like you're never going to finish what you need to finish. Okay, so I have my chart here, so I'm going to keep referring to it. Let's see, what color should she be? 93. you know, you want to be efficient with your technique without being sloppy. red that I use for that? Might as well. Okay, so now that we have our flats done, now I want to, let's see, there's usually two ways I do the shading on this. Sometimes I just go shading in grays, and then I just use like darker grays over everything. And then there's another, and that's like, or the other way that I use is just to use corresponding colors as shading. So let me see how I want to do this, because sometimes using grays gives me an interesting effect that I think I'm gonna try that right now. Usually with the darker colors, grays really work for me. So let's do that. Let's use the grays. Let's see, 198. Let's see what happens when we use a gray with a little bit of blue on it. 98. Where is it? Okay. So, like I said, this is going to be flat shading because these are not the markers I would use for like more delicate blending. These are, because of the types of nibs, these are a little bit harsher. So I'm just going to go ahead and use them like that. I'm not going to pretend these markers can do something. Seems to be working well. Might be a little too light. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's working well on the purple. You know, because in the end, it's not really about whether a tool, well, there are tools that are better than others, that's for sure. But I think my biggest complaint with Copics is that they are expensive for what they are. I mean, it's like the other day I literally paid $10 to replace one marker. So it's a bit of a put off. And with Prismacolors, you know, they're common enough that you can get them on sale for $2 a piece if you are so inclined. So it's easy to have a larger collection of Prismacolors, and you don't have to worry about, you know, having to refill them and replace nibs and all these extra costs that Copics seem to have, that I've kind of haven't really decided that they're worth it. But you know, when I color the other one and you see how that looks, you know, maybe what I think is worth it for me might be completely like not worth it, or completely worth it for you. like it. Okay. I mean, I probably should have gone a little darker, but I like there's a texture that it's giving it. So I kind of like that. So let's do this on the red. And you see we're using the exact same color to shade, but as you can see, depending on what color you're putting the same color on, it looks different. This is actually, what's ironic is that this is actually a technique that if you watch my previous video on how I learned how to digitally color properly in Photoshop, one of the techniques is not shading with black, but instead shading color with color. Oh, there goes my fake soundboard. Let's put this here. I mean, that thing. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, so that requires like some knowledge of color theory, but luckily on a computer you can experiment enough to see what colors work better with other colors so that you can get the shading that you want. And I found that shading color with color definitely adds a little bit more to a piece than if you were just coloring with shades of gray. So I think this is working out really well. Okay. So, alright. I got some ink on that nib, so. Alright, well, I'm liking it so far. So, let's continue. Yeah, this color, Muted Turquoise, is actually a lot nicer than if I had used grays. So. We're going to go ahead and continue. And then also what I like about using pretty much the same color to shade is that you get all these different tones without having to change anything. So, like I said before, if you have a lot of sketch covers to do, that technically saves you a lot of time. Because like this blue color gives the impression that she's somewhere that's not lit very well, has a lot of it gives a lot of shadows. So yeah, I'm actually liking the way this is coming out. Okay, so I'm liking that. So now I'm going to show you how I use the Prismacolors to blend a background, or to do like kind of like an abstract background. So now to kind of decide what color would be good for that. Let's see. Probably like a blue. Blue would be good. So let's start off with, let me see, what do we got here? 48. Okay, so we have 48. 46. And I think 39 should work. I think these three colors. And also another reason why I use the chart is because these little colors here, the little samples, they're not accurate to the ink. Because 48 is the lighter color, and here they have it darker than it is. So we're going to start with 48. Like I said, I'm going to do an abstract background for this. And I'm going to use kind of like a scrubbing method, because we're not doing anything detailed. And this technique works really, really best if you're using really like new markers, or markers that are just like, oh, what's a word? Juicy. It has a lot of good ink in it. Because what we're going to be doing is kind of like a wet on wet technique with the markers. Which, spoiler alert, with the Copics that I have here, I can't actually do this type of background with it. So I'm going to take 46, and I'm going to hold on to 40. I'm going to hold on to this so that I might need to do some blending. there goes my marker. And what we're going to do is we're just going to overlay one marker on top of another to blend it together. Because as you can see, it looks a little harsh. Another thing that you could do is also use the blending markers, which is really just, they just have alcohol, just pure alcohol in it with no pigment. And that helps keep everything blending together. Yeah, you see you gotta watch out for the ink. It's like, I see we have 2 people watching. I mean, there's a third one that keeps coming in and out. I guess they're waiting for me to get to the Copics. So we're almost done here. So yeah, so what you want to do is you just want to keep scrubbing until, you know, until everything blends. I mean, also, it's like how it blends depends on which colors you choose as well. If there's one thing I can give Copics, is that they have so many colors that when used together gives you a really nice blend, like almost like watercolor. But the catch is that you have to buy all these colors. And I think like a complete set of Copics runs around like $4,000, which is quite an investment. The little sets that I showed you at the beginning, I think I paid like $130 for each of those little sets, when I think for the same money you can get a near complete set of Prismacolors. Okay. Now I'm going to add this one more. And I'm going to show you how the blender works. So this is just the blender, and like I said, it's just alcohol. And all it does is that it blends everything, because it's a blender, without adding pigment, depending on what you want to do. Like in this case, though, I think that the edge is a little too harsh, so I'm just going to go ahead with more pigment. Because also another trick too is just waiting for the markers to dry and just putting the same color on top of it, and it'll look like there's more colors than there really is. Okay, I mean, pretty much. I mean, I don't want to go too much here because it's not like there's a lot of room. Okay, and this is what the Prismacolor cover looks like. So let me just put my markers away. So 39, 6, 38. So this is what it looks like. So let me get my so this is just a gel pen. Let me just see if it works. I might have to break out a new one. Gel pens are just like, I have such, yeah, I think this one's, ooh, this one's dry. Yeah, this one's dry. So I have such bad luck with them. The nibs get clogged so easily. Yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to get back to you on that with the gel pen. Okay, it looks like all my gel pens are dried out, so we'll save that for later. So this is the Prismacolor cover. I'm going to go in later and add in white highlights and effects. I'm probably going to have to do that with an ink and nib, which I'm not going to do that on the stream because I haven't done that in a while. So here we go. So this is the Prismacolor, and we used a flat shading technique on it with a somewhat blended background. So we're good with that. So I'm going to put that aside. So let me see, where's my okay, so and now we're going to get to what probably everyone was waiting for, is how different a cover looks using Copics. So we're just going to put that aside. Okay, all right. So, all right. So as I showed you, these are the Copic sets that I'm using. They're very limited in color, you know, comparatively to what Copics have. And this one, we're going to use a different technique because of the brush nibs and because of the way the colors blend. So we're going to be using that one. Okay, so we get our paper here. So pretty much, hold on. So what we're going to do is we're not going to so much put down base colors as we're going to start looking at this piece according to how we're going to blend the colors. It's a completely different thinking that I did with the other one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start with I'm going to start with her clothing. I'm going to start with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the red to pink row that I have here. Like I said, limited palette. And I'm going to work from dark to light. I found that working dark to light seems to work the best as opposed to working light to dark. So, okay. So I'm going to take my red here. And as you can see, it has a nice brush nib. It does have a square nib, a chisel nib, or whatever they call it, but I pretty much never use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where the darkest shadows would be and start feathering in the first color. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to take the next light, well, the next darkest. Well, it's not really. And then I'm just going to start feathering that in. And already you can see the difference in blending between this and this one. Where here we have our hard lines. Here we're already getting a nice blend without having to try too hard. And already you can see how we're getting a completely different effect. And the more you go over a darker color, the more it just blends out. And then we just keep actually, this one, even though this one comes after, I don't know, my markers were in the wrong order. This one should have been the next one. But that's fine. That's fine. There we go. Should have been like that. But so there you go. So as you can already see, we have a literal and figuratively different animal here when it comes to Copics and Prismacolors. Now also the thing is too is that some of the ink is getting activated, as you can see here, so it's kind of muddying up a little bit, so we have to be careful with that. So I'm just going to clean that. Now the thing with Copics, the way they try to justify the $6 to $10 per pen, is that you can replace the nib. So if I wanted to, if it really got bad, I could replace this nib. but most of the times I found when I really needed to replace a Copic marker, it was just easier for me to just buy a new Copic marker as opposed to like buying the refill, buying the nibs, buying the accoutrements that help you take the nibs off, all the accessories. So it really depends on how much you use these things. I don't use markers a lot, so it doesn't make sense for me to spend all that extra money on the refills for colors that I don't use all the time. So let's see what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna do her blouse in grays. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna decide what's the darker gray I'm gonna use, and then we're going to move down from that gray. There was another set of markers, the Blick Studio markers, which were supposed to be a Copic equivalent. And I also have a review that I did of those markers. The link is in the description below. And they worked well. The color choices were limited. They didn't have the same range. You know, they were fine. They worked fine. I think they are good dupes. But I do have to admit that the nibs on the Copics are a lot nicer. And they really do allow for nicer blending. The Copic nibs are really soft. Really, it's like, okay, I can see the appeal of using Copics, because as you can see, we're getting a completely different effect. I mean, it is nicer. But like I said, for me, cost is a huge issue. Especially after finding out that in Japan, Copics are like $2 to $3 a piece. When all this great unpleasantness finally ends and we finally take that grand trip to Japan that we would like to do, as much as I complain about Copic markers, I'm bringing a suitcase just to buy the entire set. You know, or as many as I can. Because in the end, it's like, it is nice. There are, it's like, there we go, so we gotta. That just goes to show you how wet the markers, the ink is, because the markers, because it's activating the ink again, so gotta be careful with that. Try to blend that in so no one notices. Like you can see already the difference. So I'm just going to, oh, this one's all dry. Oh, we got a dry one. Look at that. So yeah, so in the end, so here's a dry marker. In the end, I'm better off just buying a new one than just like going through the hassle of buying inks and whatnot. But I guess like anything, it's, you know, your mileage may vary. I mean, if you do want to try out Copics, I would highly recommend starting with their basic sets. You know, like the set of 4. I think it's like a set of 4, and then it's like these are 36. But you know, where they have like 3 or 4 colors in it, just for you to get like the hang of it, to see whether that is something you want to use. That dry marker threw me off, so I didn't start with the darkest marker I was looking for, so I'm going to have to go back over these. Go back over, and you know, it just blends really nicely. It's been such a I've been trying to make it a point to use my Prismacolors because I do have so many of them, that I was thinking of giving away my Copics. I was like, you know, didn't like them very much. And it's like, oh, no, I think I'm going to hold on to these. You know, I'll just stick with the sets that I have and just replace them as I need them. But in the end, it's like, there's no reason to not have them. You know, I made the initial investment already, so... Now, with Copics, I'm more likely to go over with the blender, because since Copics have so much pigment in it, that I don't want, sometimes I don't want it to get too saturated, I guess. So we're using the... Okay, so with the colors on this character, that's alcohol from... We're gonna start with grays, but I'm going to layer other, more like a yellowish color on top of it, just for it to not be too gray. So let's see. So we're going to start with, let's do her dark points first. So that one we're going to start with a darker. Because also I don't want to use black. So we're just going to, oh, and just to show you, this is what it looks like. So it does bleed, so always put your paper there. So she has these dark points, but I don't want to use black. So we're going to blend out these darker grays. Mouth is going to be a little tricky. So hello, Takor and Amaris. Hi, welcome. Yeah, old school coloring's tricky. Like I said, the whole color theory thing really throws me off, and I've yet to get, and I've yet to get the hang of that digitally coloring too, because that's, yeah, it's like there's no getting around it. Like, there's really some knowledge you need to get everything to look right. You know, you can fake it, but you can always tell the people who really know how to do things correctly. There we go. So you see how nice it looks using grays instead of just like a flat black? At least this is an area I don't have to worry about too much about the ink activating because it's all gray. But you still don't want that to happen, though. There we go. Okay. Hey, Stormwolf. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. So now we're going to use our light grays. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot her arm. That's supposed to be a black color too. So we're going to go back into that. I knew I was forgetting something. Everything's fine. I'm a little irked by that dead marker. I thought I had called out all the dead ones, all the dead in time markers before I placed an order, before I placed my order, and I guess I missed it. Okay. All right. Okay. What's funny is that I think it's looking nicer on the screen. Like the blending really works out on this on camera. Okay, now the thing that I wanted to show everybody. So now I want to blend a couple of odd colors. So I want her to still be gray but with like a yellowish tinge, kind of like a creamy color. So I'm going to use gray, the light grays underneath. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we're going to put that down first, the light gray. I completely forgot that. That's supposed to be like more like the corset here. Okay. Also, compared to the Prismacolor one, this one takes a lot more time. Because also I think with Copics it's a lot easier to kind of fuss, because you can get that nice blending effect. So now I'm going to take some this pale lemon, and I'm going to go over this gray. Because when I put down the warm gray next to it, I want this area to stand out more, because it's not all supposed to be gray. And of course, I forgot the color in her ears. Good grief. Okay, let me try to remember which colors I used. So now I can use the yellow. We do not use the chisel. Okay. Now let's do that red here again. out of spot. Okay. And now we're going to use our warm grays. Oh, by the way, thank you everybody for commenting in the chat. If you missed the beginning, I'm using, instead of using regular OBS, I'm using StreamLabs OBS. So it's nice to be able to test all their features. So yeah, so it looks like everything is working well without me having to do like all this extra coding. So that was nice. Well, that's how you can tell you're getting original artwork. No Alt Control Delete for that, or just Control Z. Alt Control Delete reboots the computer. So no Control Z for you, for that bit, for those bits. Okay. All right. So here we have pretty much the completed character done with Copics. Now the thing is, because of the chiseled edge of the Copic markers, I don't really like them for doing the background. So we're going to go back to our Prismacolors, and we're going to use that to create our abstract background, like the other cover that we did. So let's see, what color would be good? What color? Let's see. Maybe, let's see. I don't want to use blue again, but it looks like I'm going to have to use blue again. Because green, I think, will clash too much with this yellow. There's that color theory that you really have to, you know, that you have to worry about when you're coloring. Because I think green will clash too much with this yellow, and pink and purple would be too much with this. So maybe if we did like a lighter, like a grayish, it'll be a pretty desaturated piece if we do that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the blues. Oh, you know what? Maybe these purples will be like a good in between. Let's see. We can do, oh, maybe like a magenta. Or this one. I think 8 would be good. So let's do 8, 128, and 127. Okay, so let's do that. So again, we're just going to do our little abstract background. With the Prismacolors. You know, which I guess in the end is the reason why you should have like different types of materials, of tools to use, because there's certain looks that some things can give you that others can't. Well, my blending colors were off. I'm gonna have to try to get something that's a little bit between this and this. Let's see. Oh, maybe 55. That should, maybe. Might have to go a little darker. You know, it looks like I'm gonna have to use that blue anyway. Let's see. Let's use a blue. Let's see. What's that? 128. Oh, I got the 128. Oh, 168. There we go. You know, maybe if Copics had this type of nib instead of that hard chisel nib, maybe I would like them better, because then I wouldn't have to be going back and forth. You know, and I'd get better blending because there would be enough color range. You see, someone with better color theory than me would have probably made a better decisions here. Thank you. Thank you, Amaris. If my gel pens, my white gel pens were working, it would look even better. Because what I like doing is put little sparkles everywhere, and which look really nice, but all my gel pens are dead. So I'm going to have to figure something else out to do that. Okay, let's just mix it a little bit more. Okay, you know, let me take a look at my pens here. What do I got? I think this is the only one I have left. And that's too big. So let's see. No. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do my... Yeah, this is dead. Dead. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Alright. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what we got here. But I'm definitely gonna have to buy more. Alright. So I think this one is done. And let me get the other one because I'm missing my sparkles on this one too. Although this pen, well, I guess I'm gonna have to figure something out for this one then. Looks like we just used the last of it on this piece. Oh, wait. Okay, let's see. Oh, how many Copics do I own? I'll show you in a minute. Oh, and welcome, Forest. Okay, so let me show you in a minute. So here we go. So these are our two covers. And I definitely need to buy more gel pens. So what I have is I have 2 sets of 36 colors. Which, because I can't do math, 6, 3, 6, 12, 100 and something. No. Can't do math. Hold on. There we go. 72. Jesus Christ. Too many sparkles. So yeah, so I have this basic set of 36, and I have a set, this is my extras with all the grays, blacks, and extra markers that I have here. So around, about 65 to 72, depending on whether I replace. Yeah, I think it's reasonable too. And the thing that I liked about getting these 2 sets as opposed to getting, that they have the sets A, B, and C, is that these pretty much give me all the colors that I need. I don't really use Copics a lot because I have the Prismacolor markers, so I switch back and forth, as you can see here. So, yeah, so while that big 72 set would cost like almost $400, I think that, because these little sets you can get on sale, so I probably spent like half that on the markers that I have and still end up with practically the same amount of markers, but at least these colors are the ones I'm more likely to use, as opposed to getting the big set, where a lot of the time, and I've heard this complaint too, is that they have a lot of colors you're not going to use. So you spent money on markers that are just going to sit there. So yeah, if you wanted to get Copics, you want to try it out, I would recommend doing the smaller sets as opposed to investing in the big ones. At least get the colors you know you're going to use. So and try not to spend a mint doing it, you know. So okay, so these are our 2 finished covers. We have Prismacolors on the right, and we have Copics on the left. And you can see you can get like different styles or a different technique, and depending on the markers that you use. Okay, personally, you know, in the end, it's like I like the blending of the Copics, but I'm also preferential to the flat cell shading style that Prismacolors allows me to do. Oh, yeah, yeah, I know, really. It's... And like I said, I tried to feed him before the live stream started to, like, kind of distract him, but I guess, you know, it's like, I guess it's like it's time to wrap this up, but, you know, hopefully he can stay quiet for a little bit more. So, tell me what you think. Prismacolors or Copics? What do you think? What do you think? I mean, in the end, it depends on what kind of technique you're using with your artwork. So, yeah. But in the end, it's like, for me, the biggest issue is how much money one makes you spend on top of the other. So, so yeah, so that's in the end, that's really my main complaint with Copics, is that I keep saying they're overrated, but they are really good at what they do. I just really don't understand why they're so expensive for what they are. So yeah, you know, so that's in the end, it's like, that's what you have to really decide, whether it's like, you know, whether you want to spend the extra money on Copics, or you just want to be more simple and stick with Prismacolors. I mean, I've seen artists blend with Prismacolors, like, I guess with the brush nibs, like Copics. So in the end, it's just practice with the tools that you're using. I thought it would be easier for me to learn how to use watercolor than to buy more Copics, and watercolors are hard. So yeah, so that experiment didn't go the way I wanted, because in the end, it's like, you know, Copics are easier than watercolors. So in the end, your mileage may vary. So yes, so because of Burb, I guess it's like it's time to wrap this up. He's acting up, and, you know, so I guess it's like that's our cue to finish this live stream. So so in the end, thank you so much for making it through the whole live stream. I hope you found it informative, or at least entertaining, and hopefully Burb didn't blow your eardrums out in the meantime. So if you want to learn more about art, illustration, and especially about making comic books, don't forget to comment, share, like, subscribe, you know, all the things. And, you know, don't forget your free comics when you sign up in the link below. So yes, let's help me make the algorithm gods happy. So do all the things. And that's pretty much it. So I'd like to thank our 4 visitors in the chat. Stormwolf, Forest, Amaris, and of course, Takor. You guys are always welcome. You're all welcome. You know, guys being a general term, but, you know, yes, you're all welcome here. And thank you for putting up with the noise. And thank you again for watching. And I'll see you on the next video. Or the next live stream, whichever comes first. So, thank you again. And I'll see you next time.